When you work with large lists of Excel, often you encounter a problem from the beginning. I'm looking at this list. I want to be scrolling downward, look at some other entries using the mouse wheel. And the column headings, row one, have disappeared here. And I don't know the data that well. And I need to remember which column is which. So I'll scroll back up top. And as long as row one is visible, I can go to the view command and off to the right, freeze panes. And here's an option, freeze top row. Make sure it's visible. Just click. A subtle difference on the screen, separated between row one and two, is a darker line. But as I use the mouse wheel to start scrolling, look what happens. Row one stays there all the time. And we can do the same thing with the column over on the left-hand side. If I'm scrolling left and right, I'm using the scroll bar at the bottom of the screen here, I might want to know which person I'm dealing with here as I'm looking at some of these numbers. So I might prefer instead to have column A visible all the time. That's the first column in the worksheet. So going back to freeze panes, let's unfreeze what I had done before, and then again, freeze panes, freeze the first column. And now we see that column separated a little bit darker. I'm scrolling to the right, always see column A. We can actually have both of those choices in effect at the same time. Go back to freeze panes again, unfreeze. We want to click below row one and to the right of column A. So in this case, that's cell B2. Freeze panes, freeze panes. Scrolling up and down, we always see row one. Scrolling left and right, we always see column A. And we can use either of those features too with multiple rows or multiple columns. If it makes sense here to always be seeing the building along with the employee name, let's unfreeze these panes, put the active cell at C2, come back and freeze panes. And now as we scroll left, right, we're always seeing columns A and B. Scrolling up and down, we're always seeing row one. So it's a valuable feature, and it does stay with the worksheet as you open and close it. And it has nothing to do with printing. This does not mean that on separate sheets you'll get row one repeated. Now, another feature in this same window group is called split. But let's first get rid of freeze panes, unfreeze them. The split feature allows us to split the screen either left, right, or top, bottom. So let's imagine I want to be viewing different departments here that are not adjacent to each other. So I'll more or less begin the process by clicking about halfway down the screen or so over in column A, and then split. And we see a horizontal split line here. So clicking below the line somewhere, I'm using the mouse wheel here. I'm scrolling up and down. And maybe I wanted to see this executive education group below and admin training up above. Somehow they're related. I want to see both of those. So we're seeing different rows, different portions of the screen. If we no longer need this, we can double click the split bar or go back to the command to get rid of it. There could be times when you want to split the screen left-right. So here we'll click in row one, roughly halfway across, and then split, and we see a vertical split. Sometimes if the split is too far one direction or another, you can drag it this way or that way too. But now we've got scroll bars at the bottom of the screen. So on the left side, I can scroll left and right. Same thing on the right side. So we can arrange these columns in different ways to see the kinds of data we might want at the same time. Here too, if we don't need this anymore, we either go back to the command or double click the split line. Now, occasionally you might use this feature in a strange way. I remember once the active cell being sort of in the middle of the screen and I clicked split, it introduced a four-way split. You can certainly work with that in a strange way, but we've got scrolling on top and bottom and left and right. And it tends to be a bit confusing, but you might want to explore that on your own. And here too, if we want to get rid of this, we'll just double click the intersection. But I think at different times you want to explore both of these features. The freeze panes feature is in wide use, split maybe not so much, but valuable tools when you need to see different parts of the worksheet and also keep track of your data properly, particularly with that top row always being visible.